On today's episode of Whatever the Heck That Means, what does it mean to be a data-driven company? And why is that a bad target to aim for? Hello friends, I hope you are having a good day, or at least making it better for someone else. I'm Sean Kennedy, founder and president of Symbiotric, and host and creator of Whatever the Heck That Means. Today, we're talking about another buzzword in the tech industry, data-driven. We're also going to talk about why being a data-driven organization isn't a great idea for you. Last video, we talked about digital transformation. I alluded to that just a minute ago. Often bundled together with digital transformation, especially when we look at digital transformation as a point-in-time change. Let's do this project and we're transformed and we're on our way. One of the things that often comes with that project is this push to become data-driven. And that means we have to do a whole bunch of data projects. We need new databases, we need new software put in place, we have to have new processes. We need this whole new way of making decisions where we are driven by data. And I think that that is a big mistake. So we have a few definitions of data-driven, and I'm going to read them and you'll see some variation across the depth or the totality with which they think data-driven affects or should guide an organization. The first one comes from the Oxford Dictionary. It's determined by or dependent on the collection of, or analysis of data. Okay, that's okay. It doesn't tell us too much, but it's determined or dependent on something to do with data. All right. Here's another one from @internet.com. To make strategic decisions based on data analysis and interpretation. I'll forecast ahead a little bit. This one is, in fact, one of the best of the definitions that have been out there. Strategic decisions based on data analysis and interpretation. As we'll see later, this is really what is necessary in business, and a way, if this was all we meant when we said data-driven, that would be okay. All right, but we get to the problem, and this comes from Wikipedia, that progress in an activity is compelled by data rather than by intuition or personal experience. And really that is the problem. The market in which we operate, even our own business, our own company, even our own team, it's a human system. It's a complex, adaptive system. So having good data is good. It can help us automate certain things, and that's good. That's critical even for 21st century business. That we get the people doing what people are good at, and we get the machines doing what machines are good at. But when we talk about data-driven, that distinction right there, that there are things that people are good at, that humans are good at, and things that machines and algorithms and software are good at, becomes lost. So while data can help us uncover insights that we'd otherwise miss, there's too much that is unmeasurable and too much that is unknown about the limitations of the data that we have, not to mention the data that we don't have or haven't even thought of collecting. We don't want to operate our business without looking at data, but we don't want everything to be driven by what the data says, because the data cannot say really anything at all. It can't say anything at all. We always have to interpret it and make sense of it. And even in our interpretation and our making sense of it, our data cannot predict the future. So it's not that what worked well in the past, what worked a lot well, won't work again in the future. And there really is a place for leveraging data to automate things like we've talked about. And in small ways, using data to drive machines to make decisions or take actions automatically. But we can't build our whole organization. We can't make our strategic decisions in a data-driven fashion. We have to bring other things to bear. Again, yes, we use the data to automate, and we should be trying to use the data to have a good sense of where we are right now. But still, we have to make a judgment as to whether the data we have is an accurate approximation of our current state, of the real world, or if it is just data that has been collected and now has been munged into some sort of output, some sort of insight that is in fact misleading. So data-driven as a term is imbued with this idea of scientific management. And that's something we've talked about on this channel before as well. This old concept going back to the early 20th century about if our managers can just know the right things and direct the people to do exactly what they should do, then our production system, then our outcomes, that will all just be improved and wonderful and good and perfect and everything else. And in that same conversation, we talked about how that doesn't work in the 21st century. And if you are building a business today on the principles of scientific management, you are going to be outcompeted by any competitor who is taking a more agile approach to business. So from that concept of being data-driven, of just keeping the pesky people out of the way so that we can be scientific, we can be orderly, we can just have everything done correctly, leads to rigidity and causes us to make bad decisions. Not only does the scientific management approach not work in practice and is not recommended if you're trying to build a successful 21st century business, it opens you up to an anti-pattern in decision making where the data is selected in order to justify and support the outcome or the decision, the idea that you already have. The data is not something that is in fact driving any decision, but it is providing justification for it. And this happens a lot because intuitively or tacitly, leaders know that the data doesn't have all of the components. It doesn't have everything needed to make a good decision. The system of business is a complex adaptive system. It's made up of humans, and humans need to be part of decision-making process. There is no avoiding human action in business. And so if we don't consider or handle the human action, we will be making bad decisions. Such systems, these complex adaptive human systems, that is the market economy, that is our business, that is our team, that is our relationship even with a single customer. These systems are in the domain of the wicked. They are not kind, they are wicked. This is maybe some terms that you've heard of before, but I think we can illustrate them with some good examples, just starting with kind. What is a kind domain? Golf and chess are kind domains. You can practice, you can put in your 10,000 hours, and you can become expert at them. Yes, some natural ability may be there, some natural inclination may push you further, but practice can make you world class in these fields that are kind, these kind domains. And that's why we see child prodigies in these domains, like Tiger Woods or Bobby Fischer. It is something that can be mastered, can be taught, and through repetitive action you can become world class at. A wicked domain does not work that way. You can't just practice. You need, yes, experience. You need to spend time in it, yes. But you also need to bring together a bunch of other things. This tacit knowledge, this instinct that happens, that develops, this good sense for understanding and thinking, and pattern matching, which is different than just repetitive action. But pattern matching is in fact something that the human brain is ideally designed to achieve. And so another case where we talk about using our brains as a computer, pattern matching fits that as well. And so we see the effects of a kind domain can have child prodigies, and in a wicked domain like business or architecture, in fact, you're much more likely to realize success even in starting a business as a 50-year-old than a 25-year-old. In fact, 3 times more likely in the wicked domain of business. So the idea of applying a procedural, automated, data-driven approach to decision-making is just bad. It does not recognize what is actually happening, and it opens you up to having some anti-patterns come into your decision-making process where the data justifies predetermined decisions and biases. And I prefer talking about being data-informed for at least 3 reasons. Firstly, it presumes that there is a human who is being informed by the data. We are putting the humans back into the decision-making process, and we are rejecting the implication that decisions can be fully automated and handed over to computers. 2, it implies and recognizes that there are other components to making good decisions. Components like logic and reason, experience, and even beliefs about the future. All of these things form the material from which a good decision is made. Data is included in that, but there are these other things. Because data is not lionized as the thing that we need to improve our decision making and grow our business, we also ensure that we are being open to questioning and challenging all of the inputs to our decision-making process, from our beliefs about the future, to the validity of past experience in the current context, to whether the logic and reason, and maybe even really asking that the logic and reason behind a particular decision be fully articulated and checked to see if others agree with the sense that's involved in that logic and reason, but also to the data itself, to question whether we have a complete picture, whether the data is an accurate, or at least a reasonable, a good enough approximation of what we have, and if how it has been collected, how it has been aggregated, how it has been processed on the way to informing this decision is acceptable, if that data is valid for our purposes and needs. So those are 3 reasons why I prefer to use the term data-informed. So data-informed is what you want to aim for. You want to use data, absolutely, to have a better picture of your business today, to automate whatever you can, and to seek amongst that data and insights you can produce from it. And yes, use artificial intelligence and machine learning. Use all the tools available to find additional insights from that data that you would otherwise have missed. But we want to be data-informed, not data-driven. And if you have the privilege of competing against a company who's trying to be data-driven, well, you know that you are being data-informed, you will outcompete them. You will crush them. You will make better decisions on a regular basis. And your employees and even your customers will see, because of the way you go about making your decisions in a data-informed way rather than a data-driven, impersonal way, that your company is more human. And that means employees will prefer to work there. And customers, if they think that far about it, will also prefer to do business with you. So, are you ready to get off the data-driven train and seek to be data-informed? Like and subscribe if that's the case, and let me know in the comments either way. If you have questions about this topic or others that this video has put in mind for you, drop them in the comment section as well. Visit wthtm.com/digital to find more helpful content like this. If you think you need help building your beautiful business, going from feeling behind, uncertain, and stuck doing what you think you have to do, to being on track, confident, doing what you love to do, contact me through symbiotric.com. Thanks so much for joining me today. And until next time, go and make someone else's life a little bit better than it was.